Okay, so first off, what I need to do is let's make a boolean. So let's drag this away and let's make a new boolean called playing playing footsteps SFX. So playing the footsteps sound effect, and I just misspelled that just like that. Playing footsteps sound effect. Let's drag this and set it to true whenever we are playing the sound effects. And before we do this, let's take this and make a branch. So first we're going to ask if we are playing the sound effects or not. Now, just to make it more readable, I'm going to drag from this and write not boolean, just like that. So when we are not playing the sound effects, I want to go ahead and play the sound effects. So we don't need to run the footsteps sound effects when we're already running them. So if we are not playing the footstep sound effects, then we can go ahead and play the sound effects just like that. And remember, you have to set it to false at some point. So here, when we stop the timer and we stop the sound effects, I'm going to set this to false. And let's compile and see if this works or if we need to do more. Now you can actually see it works. When we are running, it works. When we are stopping, it stops as well. Okay, awesome. Now it runs way too slow. So maybe you need to reduce this number to 0.5 or 4. And you can go ahead and play again. Maybe that is way too fast. Actually, I'm going to write 0.42, I think. So you have to play it a couple of times, try to test your game. I think this is fine. You can always adjust this later if you have a bug with it, but I think this number is fine for me right now. So now this is working correctly. However, you will have some bugs. You'll see if you click on play and I run around. You can see if you run into something, it also plays the sound effect. So this is a small bug that you need to fix. And for this one, you can use the velocity of the player, because if I just drag this away and let's move all of this away here so you can actually have some room to work with. And if you right click and say get velocity, so this is the speed of the player, and you take this and break this vector so you can see the X, Y, and Z. Again, you can also just right click and split the struct bin. That is the same thing. However, I do like to break the vector just to have it out here. Now, just to see it, let's print a string, and you can just print the X velocity, for example, and you can see what it says. I usually do this sometimes when I do a new mechanic. I use the print string a lot to see what it does. So you can click on W to move around, and you can see the velocity increases, the speed of your character increases whenever I move. Okay, just like that. And the same thing with the X and Y. So you can see it increases whenever you move. So what we can do to play the sound effect, so when we walk into things, I don't want to play the sound effect. So let us drag from this and say if this X velocity is larger than, for example, 100, or if it is lower than 100, because remember, if you walk back, it will be minus a minus number. So if it is lower than 100 as well, or let's do this for the X as or for the Y as well. So let's copy paste this and just connect it here. If it's lower or higher or lower than 100. And here, let's drag from this. And we don't need to use an AND boolean, because AND means all of this needs to be true. We can drag from this and use an or boolean. So if one of them is true, we don't want to play the sound because we are too slow. So let's click on the plus here and add all of them. So what we're saying is if the velocity for the X is over 100, or if it is lower than 100, or if it's this, or if it's that, then we want to play the sound. So we can drag from here and write a branch. And then from this branch, we can go ahead and connect it just like that. And we can go ahead and connect the code. So now the code is only going to play whenever we are moving at this velocity. So let's click on play and I move around and I stop and I move into something here. You can see it's still playing, and I think it's because this here is not high enough. So if we write, for example, actually this is because this one is the lower is also wrong. So let's actually make it higher first. Let's do 250, and here I have to write lower than 200 minus 250. That was a bit a mistake from me. So let me just write 250, and it is lower than minus 250. And it's actually still playing the sound if I walk into things. And it is because I haven't put it here on the false, because when it is false, you can see if it is true, it's going to play the sound effect. But if I keep pressing the button and it will be false, we don't really do anything. This will only stop the sound effect whenever I let go of the button. So what we need to do is we need to drag this down here, and we need to plug this false into here as well. So it stops the timer whenever it is false. So let's click on play now and walk into things. And you can see now it doesn't play the sound. And when I walk a bit, you can see it begins to play the sound. And you can always adjust this number. So if you make it lower, it's going to play the sound a lot faster when you walk into things. But for now, this is fine for me. And you can always go ahead and organize this a bit more. Okay, so something like that. I just put reroute notes just so it is a bit more readable, just like that. Okay, so now what we need to do, there are other factors. Now the next factor is, you can see if I go up here, and I jump. Let me actually jump from up here, and I jump. It's also playing the sound in the air. So what we need to do is we have to take this one is not jumping. So we're making sure that the player is not jumping, else we don't want to play the sound effects. So let's drag it from the OR and write and boolean. So if this is true, and if you're not jumping, then we can go ahead and play the sound effects. So this needs to be a condition as well. So let's drag them, yeah, a little bit back here. Let me drag all of this further away. And now the jumping is working. So the second thing is we also want to make sure that we are walking and not actually running and not walking. And you can see here, if I walk, if I play the run first and I walk, it's actually going to play as well. So I want to take its running. I don't know if I have that. I don't actually. We can take this movement state and we can drag from here and say get a copy. And again, we can try to check what the last index is. If it is running, it means we are pressing the running button right now and not walking or crouching. So if this is equal to running, then we can go ahead and do this code just like that. Okay, so we can do it like that. Now, to make it more clean, I'm going to select all of this, right click, and collapse this to a function. And I'm going to call this function is running. So this is just checking if the player is running or not. And I'm making it into a pure function. Let's go into here and just organize this a bit more inside of the function, just like that. So here we're simply checking if the player is running or not. So this one is running. So we're making sure the player is running, else we don't want to play the footstep sound effects. Okay, so let's go ahead and play here and try again. So I'm playing now. If I stop, if I run, if I hold shift to walk, that's going to play. If I let go, awesome. So now it works. Okay, so there is a small issue right now. You can see if I run a bit, it's not really going to play the sound effect unless I run a bit more. So what you need to know here for the timer by event is the time you write here needs to run by before it actually plays this code. So if I write 5, for example, and I click on play, it's not going to play this code instantly. It's going to wait 5 seconds before it runs the first instance of this code. So if I run, there goes 5 seconds before it actually begins playing the footstep sound effects. As you can see here, it just played the footstep sound effect. So if I write 0.42, we need to play the sound effect right before it plays this just one time. We can do this here whenever we are going to start playing the sound effects. I can go ahead and remember you can't run the multicast directly from the client. You have to run it through the server as well. So this is why I can drag from here and write the server play footstep sound effects first, and then it's going to play the multicast after that. So I'm going to play the footstep sound effect right away when I run. And after 0.42 seconds, it's going to begin looping this code. Because if I don't do this, it's going to wait 0.42 seconds before it begins running all of that. This is why we have a small delay. If you click on play now, you can see it plays right away. Okay, so it's a lot better now. And also, what you can do if you don't want to play it right away, if you want to have a slight delay in your sound effect, what you can do, you can also click here and take this elapsed seconds or trigger seconds. Both of them work. Let me actually just use the one called trigger seconds. And what you can do is you can drag from here and let's actually just print a string. I like printing strings so you can see what we are doing. So let us connect this print string to the code and just connect this triggered seconds to the print string. Let's play. And you can see when I hold my W key, it just counts seconds of how long I have been holding my W key, for example. And not only my W key, actually all of my movements. So you can see I'm moving and it counts. If I let go of my movement, it starts from the beginning. So it just counts seconds of how long you have been pressing the movement buttons. So what you can do is you can drag from this and say if the trigger seconds is higher than for example, 0.3, then we want to go ahead and run. And let me just add another condition here. We have a lot of conditions. Actually, not this one here, the and. We have a lot of conditions. Let us plug it in and let's click on play. And it works. But now after 0.3 seconds, it's going to play the code. Now, if you make it higher, it's going to play it a lot later. So after 2 seconds, so if you click on play and run, after 2 seconds, it's going to play the code. So this is if you want to delay it a little bit. So if you don't want to play the running sound effect instantly, you can have a small delay, maybe 0.4 instead of 0.5, like that, and it will play a lot faster. So you can see it doesn't play the sound effect whenever you just do this. So if you just click the W key fast, but if you click it slightly more, it's going to play the sound effect. And I think I'll put it to 0.3. I think it's playing it way too late. So if you do this, it's not going to play. However, if you press it a bit more, it's going to play the sound effect. Okay, so now it works perfectly. Go ahead and organize the code. And if you want to remove one of the pins from the OR, for example, you can right click and remove the pin. So go ahead and organize the code. Okay, so now everything is organized and you can see the code here just in case you have missed anything. I've also uploaded this final project for you as well so you can follow. And let's go ahead and compile. Let's save everything and let us move on to the next lesson.